Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here in the wonderful Redhedge offices, being hosted by Andrea. I actually feel like I'm in a bit of an art gallery. I'm actually surrounded by some amazing works of art. And behind me, I've got a Chagall, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on.
Absolutely,
and,
yes.
It's great to be talking to you on a Monday morning.
Thank you, Bobby, for coming in. Thank you for everyone that has helped in putting all the equipment together this morning.
We wanted to talk, amongst other things, about OneFS Wealth. So Andrea is a user of OneFS Wealth, which is a tool that we built. It's based on a platform which is to bring all of your wealth together in one place. And I was really curious as to why, Andrea, you wanted to use the tool, what benefits are you seeing, and why do you think it's important for people generally to have this view of their wealth?
Absolutely. The first thing I liked about the tool is having everything in the mobile phone, to be honest with you. Like, I rarely use a computer tool because, it's you're always around, you're always traveling, and you want a mobile where you manage it. Now we manage the bank, do payments, everything in a click. So this is what I liked, to keep monitoring and putting as an aggregator everything together. But I was only looking at the classic financial market and aggregation of all the banks where I bank with or all the investment account that I have as a strength of the program. But more I used it, what for me is amazing is almost the exercise that the program forced me to do in putting together all the documents. The idea is
100%.
Yeah, the idea is I realize of course bank accounts and everything that is online is very easy, but properties, cars, art, as you mentioned, all of this comes with the paperwork, which is somewhere. You know that you have it because it's important stuff, but it's somewhere in your house, in the safe, or whatever. What you don't have is you don't have a digital copy, which is associated with a picture, for instance, of any artwork, which, first of all, gives you, whenever you need anything and you are with your lawyer, I click on it and I show him the property documents that he needs, and I can easily send on an email on that. And I started with something that is a nice to have, and now the program for me is a must have, because almost is a database of all my documents of anything from cars to art.
That is so great to hear, and you sound like a perfect user.
Yeah.
and you actually raised two really important points, because as we started to develop this tool, people were saying to us, well, actually, it's going to be all about the data aggregations and the banking connections. But no, it's not. And you just summarized that. It's much more than that. That's just a one-dimensional view of your wealth. And that's a dynamic change. And there's a change in those values, but you don't really need to worry about those changes in a bank balance, because the bank balances we're talking about aren't daily transactions. What we're talking about are different bank accounts, which might be investment bank accounts. So if the amount changes by whatever, a few pounds and pence, who cares?
Absolutely.
And that's really what people are realizing. And then the second point is about the value of having all of those documents in one place, everything. So forget the documents even, it's everything to do with your wealth. I think that is wonderful to hear. And the fact that you're actually finding it almost addictive to use, because you want to see it and you want to be able to show it to people when you meet them, i.e. the lawyer example, etc.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I haven't yet finished to upload everything on smaller pieces, because what you mainly in your mind you have, and on spreadsheets or whatever you store your wealth, the list of your wealth is the main things. The smaller things you tend to forget, because I don't know, you buy a watch, you buy some present for your wife or whatever it is, you forget. You don't consider that as part of your wealth. But really, what I'm doing now is going deeper into the smaller pieces, which is another good aggregation of something that you never or otherwise remember.
And we find this a lot with wealthy people, with family offices. They don't know where all of the wealth is.
I agree.
And everyone thinks that they know, but that's not good enough to actually think about it. That's not validation.
About the word, there is even a nice map to physically see where the word is. Because it is sometimes you understand you are overexposed to some country.
Spot on.
Which you don't realize.
Yes.
You sit on a graph, you sit on but you very rarely see on a map, which I found it very, very different angle. It's the same, but just it makes you generates awareness.
Yeah, and you know, I think that concentration risk, everyone thinks, oh, well, actually in my mind, I know where my wealth is. But that's actually not true. And you actually need to see it physically on that map. And that way you'll see that duplication of exposure, and that can cause a lot of a significant loss to your portfolio.
Absolutely.
And that's what people need to understand, that that exercise of putting it on to the platform means that they have that crystal clear view, because otherwise it's opaque. And that's not good enough, because if you're trying to build your wealth as you should be and protect your wealth, then you need to have a digital tool.
Absolutely. I mean, what I see more and more is maybe it's less of my case, but some friends, they have managers managing the classic financial market wealth and different products with same exposures, which is the worst. You need to be you need to deep dive on each funds that you have on your portfolio, for example, because if you have the same equities, the same bonds, and the same issuers which are in the funds overlapped within different managers.
Exactly. Yes.
This is the worst that can really happen, because your, let's say, Credit Suisse happens, SVB happens, like this year, and you are exposed and you don't even know. And you look at the report that generate, and it's like 5% on banks, for example. But if this 5% is overweighted to that specific bank, and each of your managers have the same, you need to be aware at least.
Yeah.
Then you can decide not to act on it, but you need to know. That's what I believe.
Exactly, it's that awareness, and then you can make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
About what to do about that overexposure. And it might not be something that you do, but you can then send a message to your wealth manager on the app if you wanted to, because it's got messaging as well. It's got email facility or direct messaging with your wealth manager if you've given them access. That's really powerful, because you can send a message saying, hang on a second, I'm actually worried about this exposure to Credit Suisse if you go back in time, and can you take that out of my portfolio?
Absolutely.
And then so you're able to delegate on the app, which I always wanted. I think that was really important, to be able to identify an issue and then take action. I work out what that decision is and then execute. And that's what the power of the platform is. But going back to your example about Credit Suisse and SVB, and if you go back a few years, what was really interesting was that a lot of family offices had exposure to, say, Enron. And this was a big issue, because people didn't realize how much Enron exposure they had. And you and I have spoken about this one before. In fact, when I was presenting here, I used that as an example, whereby some family offices had such significant exposure, it pretty much wiped out all of their wealth. That exercise of putting it on to the platform means that they have that crystal clear view, because otherwise it's opaque. And that's not good enough, because if you're trying to build your wealth as you should be and protect your wealth, then you need to have a digital tool. So you're able to delegate on the app, which I always wanted. I think that was really important, to be able to identify an issue and then take action. I work out what that decision is and then execute. People are using tools which are not fit for purpose. And I fervently believe that going forward, anyone that has a wealth, irrespective of the size of wealth, they will be using this type of tool. Absolutely. And I think that's essential. It's common sense. And we actually now have a process whereby any intern that comes in, we've got interns at the moment from LBS, from Warwick, from Imperial, we actually say, right, I'm going to give you a complimentary copy of the license as a thank you for working with us over the summer and on a project or whatever.
Right.
And we say, you need to use this, start building up your wealth, and we want you to then feed back to us clearly, but we want that next gen engagement, because they don't have any wealth now, but they're smart.
And this is a good thing. One of us is not only for the big wealth, because some people will come through and say that I don't have a billion, I can't use it. Like, it's for everyone, isn't it? Like, it would be building, it creates you awareness in your path to understand that you need to, for instance, very diversified portfolio. You cannot have it only, stocks in your investments.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that what's happening now is that family offices and wealth owners generally are getting far more astute when it comes comes to investment opportunities. So whereas before it would have been that 60-40 bond equity portfolio and a bit of real estate thrown in, now you're seeing in the mix, as you mentioned, you've got watches, classic cars, you've got CLO, single tranches, because people might have had a background in credit, and then private equity, of course, and directs. There's a lot of that going on.
Don't forget art. Very important.
And art, exactly. And you know, I think that these different asset classes and collectibles are really important because they do build that truly diversified portfolio. But then it comes back to pricing as well. I think that we feel like we built version 1, and with your feedback, and thank you for that, and for other clients, with other clients' feedback, we've been going through that loop of constantly refining the platform. And I think that's really exciting.
For me,
what are your thoughts on that?
my having a tool is on what is less of your strength. I mean, if you, for instance, everything has a depth of complexity.
When we talk to clients, a lot of them start talking about, oh, can you give me deep dive analytics? I want to know the Sharpe ratio on this, the Sortino ratio on the app. What is your view on the performance analytics, and how far should we go with that?
I mean, I think sometimes for some people, less is more.
Yes.
From my point of view, like I would want deep diving in some of those things because it's my field, but I'm most likely to have a separate infrastructure because it's my business and I have it better. And so almost you plug in with the external provider when someone wants to go there down there. But when you have some basic and strong risk parameters and metrics or analytics of investments, which are strong enough but not overcomplicated, sometimes it's unneeded. Like, even when you look at, we have a quant fundamental approach. On the quant side, you will be surprised when we run tests and we overcomplicate things. It's useless. The result the marginal difference is very, very minimal. So keep it simple, I would say. Simple and sophisticated, but not over complex.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think maybe, yes, you could add a bit of, on the risk side, on correlation perhaps, because correlation between assets is something that would be good. Because it's all down to diversification. If you are exposed to inflation all the time, you have to know. Like, for instance,
correlation's a really good one.
Classic cars, how do we know how much correlated are with inflation? Yeah. And so I don't know if you are a fixed income portfolio which is negatively correlated to inflation. Is that positive correlated? What is it? I don't know.
Sure.
I guess it is a safe spot for inflation, but do we have data to back that up? That would be amazing to have. For sure.
And that's a really good takeaway. I'm going to look into that and present it, and we can discuss it. And I think that's really good. So another question, if I may. So on the banking, we talked about banking connections earlier. I think a lot of our potential clients get hung up about the fact that, okay, so I've 4 banking relationships. How many of those have you got connectivity to? I mean, do you think that's really important? Do you really care?
To be honest, and this is a real example, it's the first question I've asked the onboarding team. Like, I got 2 British banks and 3 Italian banks.
Sure.
And there was no connection with the smallest Italian bank I was banking with. And then,
But you had connections with the other ones?
I had a connection with everyone, and it was amazing. I was amazed by the fact that you literally log into the app and it immediately plugs in everything with the system. But the one I didn't have connection is, how many times do I actually open those banks? Never. Yeah. So how many times do I move the investments I have there? Once every 2 years. So once you upload the spreadsheet, a connection is complete. On the NIV, the basis point, the alpha basis point of that mandate is useless. Yeah. Like, it doesn't change the big picture. This app is to give you the wide, big, broader picture. Then when if you need deep diving into those investments, you go through that specific line. So
it's a great answer, and that's exactly my view, and that's what I've been saying. I think it's great for you to articulate that, because as a user outside of the 1FS team, that's really what we want people to understand. Because these obscure banks that you have money with, it comes back to exactly what I said earlier. The money, you might have some money in there, but it's there for a purpose. It's not for daily transactional use, it's for investment or deposits or for safekeeping or whatever, and it doesn't move around.
Absolutely, it's always there and never changes, and it's useless to have an API with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it makes you realize, because there is so many banks in the connectivity system that you have. Sometimes you say, why am I banking with these guys that don't even have a connectivity with the world?
And no one's actually framed it in that manner. That's a really good question, because it's so true. I think if you are a bank and you haven't embraced technology, then that's worrying. Why have you not embraced technology? What else have you not done in terms of the organization? How secure is your setup? So I think it's a really valid question, and I really want more banks to move into that open banking arena and not be Luddites. I wanted to just conclude with thank you very much, Andrea, for your time. Thank you for hosting in your amazing offices. They really are stunning with the art, and I think it's a perfect example of where a fund manager who focuses on the credit markets, who is deeply analytical, very much quant focused, and someone who appreciates other things outside of numbers. I mean, and looking at art is so wonderful. I mean, I love, like, as you do, walking around a gallery or museum and admiring art. And to actually then look at how you incorporate that into your investment portfolio, I think that's wonderful. And the fact that you've then applied some metrics through the ABC of Art, which Francesca has produced, which is an amazing read, I think that is really powerful, because that helps us to then take the platform to the next level, because we want to know about the coefficients related to art. So I think it's been a brilliant discussion. We're looking forward to a part 2. Hopefully you're in agreement, and very enjoyable. Speak to you very soon.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.